It's been a few years since we released our last single, and prior to that, a few more years since we launched our first album, Singularity. And yeah, it's been quite a while. I guess I can attribute that to numerous lineup changes within the band. With every lineup change, you readjust, you reformat. It's been quite a challenge for Stereo Deal in that way. Producing or making Lights Out was a journey on its own. I wrote it one night, or after this one night na nagka-brown out here in Green Heights. Walang ilaw, no lights. So I did what any well-meaning guy would do. I went outside, looked up, and I saw these beautiful stars and a lot of these constellations, galaxies that I normally wouldn't see if there were lights outside. So I took photos and I was inspired the next day. I wrote a song, I guess a love letter to the night sky, which is tough to do because it's going to be a whole lot of abstractions and all that. And the interesting thing about the process was that when I initially wrote it, I was thinking John Cicada. You know, I've always wanted to do a 90s dance type song. But Peter, our drummer, had something else in mind during rehearsal. He added an 80s Phil Collins meets Madonna kind of vibe to it, which I have to say added more to the feel of the song and was a major contributing factor to what the song is now. After road testing it, because that's what we do, we road test the songs. By the time we record it, everything's just... We eventually got to record this at Crow's Nest Studio here in Parañaque City. Crow's Nest is run by Audrey Janicio of General Luna and owned by, you know, this guy. And of course, the convenient thing about recording in Crow's Nest is that I live very nearby. So, you know, I don't have to be stressed on the way. My soul. Of course, it didn't necessarily apply for the other guys who live way further north, but I guess they were just all too happy to record there. We initially recorded Lights Out November 2019, a few days before I left for Singapore to watch the U2 concert there. It was crucial that we recorded it at that point in time because I wanted to shoot parts of the planned music video in this place in Singapore. I don't want to name it because I don't want to get in trouble because we really snuck in this camera in that place. We recorded Peter first. It was Peter's first time to record in a proper recording studio, and I guess, you know, it presented its challenges.
One thing, strict ako sa punching ng drums. Like punching in drums. Parang I try not to.
Ano yun, no? Gulo yun.
Feel.
Yeah. Especially with him, Peter has always been a punkish drummer, and playing with a metronome and playing with loops was a big challenge, but you know, he aced it easily. Peter already pre-programmed some of the electronic loops. We've been already using them during the live shows, so it was easy to plug in. Dax, our bassist at the time, recorded his bass parts too, and some of the backing vocals as well. But the key element there was our friend Japo Anareta from Tanya Markova. He recorded his piano parts and his synth parts as well.
Pero
Enrico Braza.
Di ba deng peteng parang deng tas
Kailangan ko ng pyesa eh. De, joke lang. Parang...
The hunter runs through the sky.
He is also my go-to vocal coach.
We are one, you and I.
Konti.
Night.
Gag! Di, parang gaganon mo.
Okay, trivia. The settings that he used for his stints with Real Life and Lotus Eaters were the same settings that he used for this recording. Just for that new wave feel.
Nagdrag ka. German girl.
Now we all know what happened a few months later in 2020. Lockdowns, the pandemic. The band couldn't move at all as much as I wanted something to happen. Everybody was dealing with the pandemic in his way, so totally understandable. But I still proceeded to do music, online jams, as was the case with a lot of musicians, and just trying to write, making more music, and thinking of what to do with the video. Eventually, when things opened up, we actually finished mixing the song at Crow's Nest and launched it January 2021. And we were gearing to, to go full blast promoting the song. But because of pandemic considerations, we weren't able to shoot the video and other matters internally within the band, which, to be honest, I really don't know where to start. But, such is life in the pandemic. Fast forward 2022 and we started gigging again. One of our shows was at RJ Bistro in Makati for this TV show Let's Groove that was airing over at RJ TV. One of the hosts there was this very awesome saxophone player, Ian Jacinto. And I had this wild idea during the set. I wanted him to do what was normally my guitar solo at the end of Lights Out. The thing is, when I thought of the guitar solo for Lights Out during one of the rehearsals, I was thinking of You Belong to the City by Glenn Frey. And I wanted a guitar solo that approximated that kind of 80s feel. And with an actual saxophone doing it, I would have considered the song going full circle. And man, I loved how it sounded. Of course, that show was also instrumental in the major lineup change of the band later on, but that's another story for another day. Lights Out sounded good with an actual saxophone. So I told everyone we have to re-record this song with a sax. And so we did. Well, we didn't really end up re-recording everything. We used Peter's drum tracks, the bass tracks were still there. We recorded the saxophone over at Studio 222, ran by Said Concepcion of Ursa Minor, mainly because the guys at Crow's Nest have been busy with this certain big concert that was happening. That one. We were able to hit the studio during a lull in their schedule. So thank you, Sandwich, for that US tour. One thing that I knew that I wanted to redo was the guitar solo, mainly because I wanted it to be complementary to Ian's playing. And at the same time, when I originally recorded the guitar solo, I was after this sustain that at the time I didn't know how to do. Turns out, I just needed this one. This guitar was actually one of my very first electric guitars. Technically second, but the very first electric guitar that I used actively when I started gigging with the Purple Chickens back in the day. I modded this heavily last year. I changed the neck to maple wood. But the key thing here is this sustainer pickup that I added. I bought this in Indonesia. Well, had it shipped here. This is a custom sustainer pickup that I had made and had installed. This gave me the sustain that I needed for that song. I needed notes to stay there longer. In fact, it gave me the exact sound that I needed.
Sarap, it could go on.
They were essentially the same parts. Think of it as two entities doing the exact same thing, then splitting off to do their own thing, resulting in a cacophony of stuff that results in this big, grand tension. The result is, wow, I loved it. And I can say now that it's the definitive version of Lights Out. The funny thing with Ian's recording day was that he actually did the music video first before we proceeded to the studio in the afternoon to record his actual sax parts. Oh, and the funny thing happened at Studio 222. He actually got trapped inside the recording booth. We couldn't open the door. So I actually told Ian, when you do the outro, play it like you won't be able to leave this room ever again. And that's how he did it. Man, I loved it. Perfect. Perfection. So Ian, thank you so much. Thank you for that. I'd also like to thank Peter for still being here, and Japo for always being there, and to BJ for being Stereodio's voice of reason. Moving forward, because life happens, Stereodio is gonna be essentially me with the support of Peter and Japo and other musicians who would be available, or whether it doesn't have to be a static lineup. It can change. It's gonna have a rotating group of people with me. The one thing I want moving forward is that all of them have to be my friends, because friends stay, and friends also tell you when you did wrong. And I still want to have those voices in my ear. Thank you SM Mega Mall for allowing us to shoot at that Mega Christmas in Space display or feature or exhibit. That was great, and that was a very fun experience. And to our handful of listeners, I promise you that there will be new stuff coming this year. I'm very excited with what this new year will bring us. So I hope you guys will stay, and I hope you guys will continue to support Stereodio, because I really appreciate it. Exciting stuff, exciting things coming. So Happy New Year, guys. And here's to 2023.